And I'd like to welcome everybody here. Like Tom said, one of the things that we're talk about is Adrian's process. I met him about 10 years ago, and through this film and others that he has done, and he's been recognized by the international community and the Native community alike in what he's done and how that he's been able to basically learn to function and exceed. Um, you know, he's gone to where he would have rides all the place to being able to um, get to where he could function to actually get a driver's license and start to teach and start to learn. Um, we're going to start with the first.
And so I've been copying the whole.
As I was growing up, I really liked watching movies.
WrestleMania, the 1985 WrestleMania. I'm gonna make this movie called Driver.
As time went on, I noticed how my school education was different, and the fact that I was placed in separate schools from mainstream society called special ed, or what I call grotesque joke schools. Because of the lack of me and others learning how to read, write, and do mathematics, and spending more time watching cartoons, movies, going on field trips, phys ed, etc. Eventually, I learned how to read and write thanks to my mom, but was placed in an institutionalized special ed classroom at Monroe Developmental Center. When I was there, I felt like I was Randall McMurphy and the teacher was Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I soon felt the anger rise in me. Damn it, I want to go to... Soon after witnessing other students in my special ed classrooms having meltdowns and behavior problems, it soon affected me psychologically and mentally, and I started having meltdowns at home, putting my mom in grief. One day, while looking through my mom's old reel-to-reel tapes, I found one on Rolling Thunder, who was a Cherokee medicine man.
Oh, Osio. We're sitting up here in the mountains, Rocky Mountains, in a place called Boulder Canyon. Beautiful country up here. Snow-capped mountains all around. Bunch of good people. My name is Roland Thunder. Some people say I'm an tribal medicine man, although I don't claim anything.
As I listened to him, I started to ask myself, could a Native American medicine man help me with my autism and meltdowns? The only problem was I didn't know much about Native Americans, except the fact that they were played by white people in redface in a negative way in the movies.
Nota's brother talks like the white man he thinks he is. He's afraid to be Comanche.
As my filmmaking career started to take off, I got involved with Ganondagan Historic Site in Victor, New York, and made my first narrative film, which I wrote, edited, and co-produced, called Bury My Heart with Tonawanda.
And the punishment was he took away the face of all the little Cornhusk people. And it's a reminder to all of us that we're all created equal. That's why we don't put a face on them, John, because we're all created equal.
I then realized as I became good friends with those at Ganondagan and other Native people that seeking help from Native American medicine men and healers was a possibility. My first step was to meet with my therapist, Dr. Lawrence Sugarman, to see what his thoughts were on my spiritual journey. Hello, Dr. Sugarman.
Good to see you.
Good, nice meeting you again. The reason I wanted to meet with you today is because anger problems and meltdowns and behavior problems are those associated with autism. And is there any recommendations for me that you can give and ways to handle these problems of stress and meltdowns, just in everyday life for me?
I think that the core feature of people with autism spectrum disorders that is universal is that handling of stress. And we have some theories about why that might be true, that maybe the part of our nervous system called the vagal system doesn't develop very well. And that's part that has to do with social interaction and tuning into people and developing language. And so the other part, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, kind of overdevelops to compensate, to balance that out. And as part of that, more rigid thinking, more repetitive behaviors, and harder to handle stress. And I like to use the word diffability instead of disability for different abilities, because it's not necessarily that there's something wrong as much as there's something different. We are interested in ways that teach young people to turn down that fight or flight response and turn on that vagal response, that social response. And we are exploring ways to do that with computerized biofeedback and meditation and relaxation exercises that fit for young people with autism spectrum disorders.
Last year when I was making the film Bury My Heart with Tonawanda, I discovered that people with disabilities, as you say, and Native Americans have some similarities in common. Like, for example, I learned that, as you and I well know, that people with disabilities were in institutions like Willowbrook State School, and also the fact that Native Americans were put in institutions called Indian boarding schools, forcibly being taken away from their parents. And I think the bigger piece of the pie is the abuse and mistreatment in the community and so forth.
Yeah. What strikes me about that is in both cases, it's using what I would call a deficit model, or, disability versus diffability. And for anybody of a different culture, or Native Americans or Indians, is saying, we're going to institutionalize you and try to form you or push you to conform to a different cultural standards, ignoring what's innate, what's part of who they are.
An idea came to me that could it be possible for Native American healers and medicine men to help me with these problems we've discussed with anger, outbursts? What would you think of this pursuit of me wanting to go on this journey meeting with them?
My first thought is that if it came to mind, it's a good idea. If it came to your mind out of who you are and how you see yourself, it's a good idea, because you'll only learn something. The second is because of that commonality of struggling to find within oneself what the resources are, who you are, and because of that link between disabilities and Native culture and practices, it makes sense. It makes sense to see through different eyes. Then you have to decide what parts of that, or even what parts of what we talk about, are relevant and useful for you. Yeah, I'll be interested in what you report.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
See you when I come back.
All right, good.
With water and fire and an earnest desire, he asked for the wisdom of life.
Okay. you've seen how Adrian's story started. One of the things that we had talked about was back when he first started, trying to seek this. A lot of us were involved with the movie From Bury My Heart with Tonawanda, which is about my reserve where I come from. And one of the things that they had was a lot of the teachings about, when we talk about the covenant chain or the broken chain. And we teach that, we're only as strong as the weakest link. So if we take the people who are considered, the weakest or the most feeble and stuff in the culture, then we bring them, we lift them up, we bring them to, the center of society and give them, functional purposes in life. Then that strengthens our circle, that strengthens our chain. One of the things that Adrian and his mother were really kind of worried about was the amount of medicines, the different medicines and stuff, and how he had reactions and stuff to them. And it just seemed to be like a lot of times in mainstream society, they wanted to medicate a problem instead of trying to find a balance or find some way that they could be functional. One of the things that we talked about was different herbs, different ways of eating, getting away from a lot of the things that would be, that would be considered something that would trigger his emotional outbreaks, his physical outbreaks. Adrian has always been, a big man. Right now he stands about, I think he's 6'4", and and he's I don't think he's 300 pounds, but he's pretty good size. And a lot of times he said, when he was in school, he was bigger than a lot of the other kids. And then, when he had problems, that was one of the things that would happen is his outbreaks and his, like he said, his diffability. And one of the things that we talked about was the differences in people that in a basis of, traditional teaching versus, a structural or, cultural teachings. And with that is we talk about using herbs, using the physical way of even just going out and being outside, walking in the woods, putting your feet in the water and just you touching things to get that sensitivity back into your system instead of, being, like he said, in that structured, closed classroom. So we tell them this is, our classroom, we walk out in the woods, it's everything. One of the other things that they talked about was like ceremonies and stuff. And, and he was able to go to, we did number ceremonies and stuff with him. He went through going to like sweat lodges, but he learned a lot of the traditional teachings. And then when we started in doing the movie with Bury My Heart with Tonawanda and about, with John, and, he was at that time, being put into a school called Asylum for Idiots. And that was actually the name of the school, in Genesee County, New York, and how everything fell through on, how he was put in the horse-drawn, paddy wagon to be taken there. And, the door opened and he jumped out, and then he ended up, being on a reserve and then being able to stay there and learn, from the indigenous people. So he thought, with a lot of that is when he was working through with the doctors, and he says, when he started asking more questions, he was getting less answers and less answers, because I told him, I said, in reality, a lot of them, they don't know, they're just trying different medications to find something that works. Well, when you find something that doesn't work, that kind of, reverts your system back to, where you were before. And so when we talked about, the herbs and just the cultural thing about being outside and being part of, being out in nature and walking and getting away from, that structural of being inside. And his mother said that, she's seen, directly that how a lot of these things and how he learned and their travels and stuff to visit different healers and going to different places. One of the, when he talked with Warren Sky, which is, was a good friend of mine, and Warren's from my territory, from Tonawanda. And unfortunately, 4 of the people that were in this documentary and stuff have passed on. 5, if you count Snowball, the white wolf that we had that lived with us up on Council House Road at Smoke Residence. And so he said, even with being around the animals, and he said he always enjoyed coming to visit. He said because he could have discussions with me. He says, but the dog would have discussions with him. And he said it was more like it was a holistic approach instead of just being trying to be a simple structured and finding out, like I said, what medications work and what medications don't work. When he talked about disabilities, and and the doctor was talking about different ability being different, and that one of the things that we find is a lot of times people with Downs or people that are in autism spectrum, and they find things that they excel at. And one of the things that I noticed with Adrian is that he started understanding and picking up a lot of the smaller details that people would overlook. And so when he was working through and writing, this movie and stuff, when he was working on that kind of gave him the the ability to see where he was when he was growing up, and then where he was then. And so when he proposed the question about how he wanted to search for these other things to see what was there for him, and one of the things I'd seen was, this was probably, I don't know, I'd say probably 6 months after he had already been doing some of these other things, before he even approached his therapist and his doctors and stuff about doing any change. And I know he's seen it, we've seen it, and his mother had seen it, that he was starting to find that balance that he was searching. So then he decided that he wanted to make this road trip, and that's what a lot of this video is about. The next one that we're going to cut into here is with another good friend of mine, Mike Bistain. Mike wrote, he's a writer. He's been in, but he was in Bury My Heart with Tonawanda. And there's a lot of things that come up in those teachings from his side. And I remember when he was young, and then once he had Bailey, and Bailey has Down syndrome, but how it was remarkable with her that you could sit there and talk to her, and you wouldn't think that she would understand. Next thing you know, she knew exactly what to do. So now we're going to take and watch this short piece with Mike Bistain, and his discussion with Adrian.
On my journey.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Michael Bastine taught me this while on my journey.
Because of the culture, because of meeting people like Mad Bear and Rolling Thunder, they give this insight to you, but you see it really demonstrated and exhibited when you meet people who are categorized as disabled, and you go, these people are actually higher functioning in the consciousness realm. And just because they don't fit into society, and I guess one of my questions would be is, if you fit into the high level of society, is that going to help you when you leave here? Is that going to benefit you when you go into the higher levels of consciousness? And so we need to keep that in mind. And I think the native cultures all do that. They keep that as their main focus, but it doesn't mean that they stop living life. It means they include that in how they live life. So far in the last 13 years, the greatest teacher and component to this life has been Bailey, my daughter. And she was born with Down syndrome. And the Down syndrome people are probably one of the most perfect humans that come into this life, because what they have is not organic. It's not something that was environmental. This is a purest concept, and it's a delivery system right from the highest consciousness. So when it comes into this life, you can't teach it how to be a good human. It is already a good human. All you can do is support that and nurture that, and then let it grow. As it grows physically, it also grows in this other area. And you may want to say it's consciousness, you may want to say it's spirituality, but they already have this understanding, and they don't need to be shown what's the right thing to do. If you raise them in the proper environment, if you provide the right environment, they have no behavioral problems. They are these beings which are so loving and so understanding that in order to see it, you have to live with it. And when you see that happen, now you start to see or connect to what they talk about within the medicine groups of people, of the concept of what they're trying to idealize the human being and make the human into this great thing. And yet they all have that potential at birth. But because of the adults that are creating the environment in which these humans are coming here and going to grow up in, they become influenced by these distractions, these other parts of life that are not helping them maintain the good human element that they came here with.
One of the unique things that you see when Michael is talking is that he comes from the people, and they talk about a lot of the the simplicities of life, and learning that that your abilities aren't just caught up into one thing. Is that your abilities can be your consciousness or your spiritualist, through that whole development of your physical being. So when you learn a lot of that, like he was saying, that people with disabilities, it's not inherent that they that they have a lot of problems. A lot of that is actually learned, and a lot of it with Adrian, it was learned that the frustration, that he didn't understand why the medications did some of the things that they did, and why we're going through a lot of this here in a little bit, we're going to have, a question and answer. And you can actually, type out your questions and send them in. And then we'll get to those and we'll just go over those. But a lot of times, when Adrian was talking about, when he learned to listen, and he says, and he said he had to think about it. He says, because, learn to listen, that it wasn't just learning to listen to what his teachers were saying. It wasn't learning to listen to what the doctors were saying. It was learning to listen to himself, learning to understand what his abilities are, where he excelled, where it made the differences. And his mother was one of the biggest advocates for everything that he did, because she didn't say, well, you can't do that. He says it was more like, well, we'll figure out a way. And that was one of the real nice things about it, working with his mother, and she does a lot of these things for him to help him, with a lot of the programming stuff that he does. And so it's always been kind of a family adventure. And when he talks about, listening to elders and then going and talking to the people on his journey, and seeing what he could gather, from, the elders. And one of the things with the elders and what they talk about, and he says that it wasn't until he was on his second trip to head out west, and he said, it kind of clicked in his mind that, everything that they're saying, is the same. That, he has the ability, to change himself. But learning how to use that ability, learning how to restructure his life, that, what is going to anger him. And so slowly he actually was able to get off a lot of the medicines and stuff that he was on, and being able to function, at a higher rate. And when he started seeing everything coming in leaps and bounds, he started to have to slow down and start to learn how to moderate himself, like taking time and just turning off all the electronics and stuff, and in the movies and stuff, and just sitting down and letting his brain rest and listen to himself. And so that was one of the things that they had, that he had learned, was within his own realm or his own space, that he was the king, that he was able to make those decisions. But he was also, he had to take the point to learn to listen to himself, to learn to find that balance. And so when he learned to find that balance, he talked about, the different types of medications, the different types of things that he was looking at, and then being able to attend different ceremonies. Now the next clip is we're gonna show. This is the being up on the reserve up on Tonawanda. This is the cabin place where I stay when I'm up there. So this is my home on Council House Road, and you'll see Snowball, who is he's a Malamute and White Wolf crossbreed, and and you'll see and understand what we mean when the animals talk to you.
The Tonawanda Reservation.
Apparently we're having the same technical difficulties as last time.
Leon, tell us more about that dog.
Healing methods.
Yeah, when we're up home, there's a lot of those.
We have oral traditions. A lot of the people that are developmentally challenged or have autism and stuff, most of the Native communities, actually consider them as a gift, not as a detriment, which in mainstream society, they don't feel that, that they should be a part of, the direct culture. And in most Native American communities that, there are a lot of programs and stuff done specifically to enhance, their teachings, because it is an oral tradition, and having them involved with the songs, with the drumming, with some of the other ceremonies. Individually, you have different abilities. Some people are more sensitive. One of the things with a lot of people who are developmentally challenged, a lot of times their hearing, their eyesight, they have more an ability to see and perceive a lot of things that a normal person, wouldn't generally would focus on, and they would see a lot of, little instances in, weather change, or sounds that an animal makes, or even variations in how people stand and talk. Within a lot of those, a lot of those teachings, people have, instances where they talk about, different visions, different types of material that, that comes to them, or in their spiritual beliefs, that they may see more plants, but they may see animals or birds and stuff that, that focus on, their abilities. And a lot of times, they may see something, completely different, when a bird flies by, than what somebody else would see.
I remember when we saw you last, you were saying a word that described a person with a disability and something to do with the trees.
Right. It's old Tutelo word. It's called Wita, and it means to stand fast and spread your roots. And a lot of times when we're dealing with a lot of the autistic people, some of them, will get into one space and they'll do, they'll be whirling, or some people will just move back and forth, and and we teach them, the medicine of the trees, that that this is normal, that they can stand, and just, they can bend, just like the trees, and actually use that energy, to find, peace, and find a balance in their life.
Okay. Yep, that's home. One of the things that we talked about when Adrian was there, and like I said, he was always fascinated when he come, because the dogs would come right up, running up to him, and he says, I never seen dogs that big, and he says, and they would sit there, and they were real playful, but he said he could talk to them, and they would talk back, and they would howl and everything else. But as soon as somebody started pulling in the driveway, the dog turned to, security mode. So one of the things that we talk about is, like Adrian said, if he had a place, he wanted to you come and live on the reservation and come and live with us in the big woods and stuff there. A lot of it would be like when he wrote the book and the screenplay and stuff for Bury My Heart with Tonawanda. That, John, in having downs and stuff, and then being there, and that's one of the things that he portrayed as the character, is that, he felt whole when he was there. He felt like he was part of something. And so a lot of those traditional teachings about everyone, and how everyone has their place in life, but also has their own traditional space. And when we talk about traditional space, that's where you come from, where your DNA lies. And I said, when people say, well, they want to be Native American and stuff, and they come from a Polish descent, says, well, do you realize that there's indigenous people in Poland? I said, start to look at some of the places and stuff where your traditional people came from. One of the other things that we talked about with Adrian, and one of the things that we did was using a lot of music, using sounds, using drumming, and actually, for some of the dances and stuff, that he was able to come to and be able to participate in some of the different ceremonies. And so, when you go through and you talk about a lot of these traditional teachings, you have to come from things as a holistic approach. It's like when a professor is teaching a class, you have to look at it and follow your curriculum, but you also have to know your students and understand what's the best way to teach these students, because if all your students fail, that's not going to look good as the teacher. So a lot of times when you're talking about that, you got to put things in perspective. And when we talk about the differences in with people with, like they call with people with disabilities, is a lot of the animals in the therapy, and they found a lot of connections and stuff to how people with Downs or people that are autistic or different parts in how they respond to animals and how the animals respond to them. And one of the things that we talked about is when these people are born, they say, well, they were born with this disability. So, well, we don't believe that. We believe that they were born perfect for them. And who are we, to say that they're not perfect, because that's the way the Creator made them. And so when we're dealing with a lot of the issues, that's one of the things that we look at. If you take somebody and they may not be a top 10 athlete in the world, but if they go out and walk and they strive that they've only ever walked 100 yards and they walk a mile, to them and to everybody else, that should be a major accomplishment. And a lot of times too is learning their hand skills. We have a lot of traditional, like she was talking about the corn husk dolls, using the corn husk dolls for traditional teachings and stuff, and how, it's just husk that comes off the corn, but then you turn it into, a figure. But then we have the whole teaching and stuff of the corn husk dolls and how, everyone was the same and how they all had different faces and everything. But it was also a teaching of vanity, that once, the girl that was having everybody do stuff for her, once she was at the water's edge and washed her face, then her face disappeared. And then when she looked in and seen her reflection, it was gone. But then she noticed everybody else was gone. So now everyone is the same. But when you look at that, and you start lumping people into different categories, one of the things that we talk about is, what is going to be their purpose in life? What can they do? We had a couple very unique times and stuff, and I've done a lot of programs for people with disabilities in different places and stuff, that people in, taking things in, that they never would be able to touch or be able to handle. I take a lot of furs and stuff in, and you see a lot of them, how they react when, they pick up a fox fur or a raccoon, or especially if you hand them a skunk hide. And, a lot of times everybody's always, real leery about grabbing a hold of it because, oh, it's a skunk, it's going to stink. But that was their, what they learned. So a lot of times, like one of the things that Adrian talked about was how his system was structured, that he would watch movie after movie after movie, but he could memorize and he could know, what was coming up next. But it was at that same ability that he had, that he was able to learn, through his teachings about a lot of the things that he wanted to do. And so when he started talking with his mother and things, well, this is what he wanted to do. This is what he wants to help and show others of people within the disability or disability community that, you are able to do things. I think this is one that Adrian's done about 10 different movies, and you see some of the awards, the stuff that he's won in a lot of these different film festivals, and Robert Redford and some of the other people that they noticed, where he was coming from, and they understood. Now he's in the beginning of producing a mainstream movie. So with that, there's a lot of traditional teachings of, like I said, where he started, when I first met him, and then where he is now. And so I was talking with him the other night, and I told him we were doing this program stuff, and he was all excited, and a lot of it was, his being able to travel some of the different places and some of the people that he's seen, but he always remembers. There's one thing that with him, he doesn't forget names, or where people come from and stuff like that. That's one of his abilities that he has excelled with. One of the things we're going to get ready to do is start into the question and answer part. So if anybody had any questions, like I said, you can send those in, and then Tom or Shannon Trees, they'll read them off, and then we'll go from there.
So I'd like to encourage anyone who has any questions to click on the Q&A tab at the bottom and type in your questions you have for Leon. Thank you, Leon. While we're waiting, I was hoping that, Leon, that you could sort of give us a bit more on some of the holistic aspects of Indigenous medicine. I think you covered quite a bit of that already, but I think that sort of like mapping some of that out might be helpful.
There's a lot of natural medicines out there that are used for traditional teachings, but also they're used in different ways. Some of them are just like the smell of mugwort or the smell of lavender, and how it triggers different senses. So a lot of times what we do is we try to use those in areas in some of the healings that allow people to be able to, instead of having to go out and then, like I said, just keep picking herb after herb after herb. A couple years ago, we did some of the things with the herbs and stuff at the one conference there, and showing how you can actually use rice, use some of the different medias, and putting the herbs in there, and actually be able to hold the scent and the natural smells and stuff for them for a lot longer.
So several questions in the sort of Q&A. The first one: what herbs did you recommend to Adrian, and what types of diet changes?
Well, a lot of the diet changes, one of the things was, to get away from processed foods. He said, once he got started having fry bread and corn soup, and he says, he could understand why, people wanted to, have their traditional foods. Herb wise, there's a number of different herbs and stuff. Like I said, mugwort is a good one. And mugwort is basically considered a desensitizing, which actually helps clear the mind. So I told him, like with sweetgrass and sage and stuff. And then when he started driving, to just put him up hang him in his vehicle and stuff, and let the heat from the vehicle, help, with that clarity.
Thank you. The next question: what differences do you see understanding differences amongst people as positive in how we live with one another, and in how we exist and learn to live with each other?
Okay. One of the big things is people need to learn how to it's like now everybody has to, they're social distancing, they're worried about masks, they're worried about washing their hands, everything else. And one of the things that we look at is finding a space, finding it's like when you go out and you have a group of friends and you sit down around a campfire and stuff, and you have a lot different conversations, and like it becomes more fun than if you're sitting in a bar just drinking, or if it's coming down to like if you're at a restaurant. And a lot of times when you're outside and you're around natural elements like water and fire and just the wind, that has a big tendency to put people in a lot different mood than they are if they're around other crowded people.
Next question: what sort of practices of Native medicine are held besides people with autism or other disabilities?
Okay, read that one more time.
What sort of practices of Native medicines are held besides people with autism and other disabilities? I mean, it's a very big question, so obviously you're not going to answer all of it for us right now.
A lot of it depends on the disability. If somebody has, say they're visually impaired, there's ways of working through sounds and repetition, and that we would do with with drumming and using a water drum versus like a hand drum, and having more resonance and stuff in there. It would help their their system acquire more of those abilities to understand through those wavelengths. You take people that have other disabilities that say that they're like people with Downs. A lot of times one of the things that we do with a lot of the people with Downs is we work through color contrast, and a lot of times using having a little story time and turning the lights out, and then using flashlights and let them illuminate each other as they're talking. And a lot of times that gives them more of a structured space of themselves, and they feel more free. So in like we've had people and stuff when we're doing some of the ceremonies and stuff in sweat lodges, and we've had a lot of times when we're doing sweat lodges and stuff, it's when we're on their trips or different places, and it's a whole new awakening to a lot of the people, because somebody that smokes may come out and their natural senses may be so more acute, and then like I said, I've seen people come out of lodges and not smoke again.
Someone would like to know a bit more about your reserve and where it's located, Leon.
We're up there. We are in the Tonawanda Reserve, or Tonawanda Territory as we call it. We don't really reserve ourselves as a reserve. That's kind of a government word. We're in upstate New York. We tell people, I says, well, head toward Batavia, Rochester, and hang left to Lake Ontario. And a lot of times when people come there, like when Adrian first came there, he says, he's seen farmlands and stuff, and then he drove into 150-foot trees. Because we don't do any logging, we don't do a lot of the things of a lot of the forest and stuff that's there. We got a lot of pristine forests, but we're the only we're the smallest of the Seneca Nation reserves, but we're the only solvent nation left. In that meaning that we have no non-natives that live there, but we're total control over with our chieftain and clan mothers that run our society. We do not have elected government. It's all inherent government.
The next question, I'm intrigued by your comment that children with developmental challenges are viewed as gifts among Indigenous populations. Can you share a bit more about this? I have a child with Down syndrome, and I've always said that he has gifts that are more in line with the Creator than those who are so-called normal. What informs the Indigenous people's views?
What do you consider normal? When we're talking with people that that have disabilities, like I said, we don't look at it as disabilities. And one of the things that when we're doing some of our dances in the longhouse, and then we have a number of people of all ages that have that are autistic and they have Asperger's or they're Downs, and one of the things that they find that's most enjoyable for them is when we're having a social dance, because they come and they know they're accepted as 100% part of the community. So one of the things that they do is a lot of the teachings and stuff that we have during those, and we talk about the dances and the songs and the ceremonies, they inherently will absorb a lot more than what say one of the kids that don't have any disabilities. And so a lot of times you see them excel when they're in those circumstances than they would if they were in mainstream society, because and it's not that they're different, it's just that we treat them different. We treat them as part of our holistic society.
Oops, questions just jumped around on me. Someone would like to know a bit more about some of the music-centered healing practices you've utilized and experienced.
We do everything from flutes to water drums to rattles, but we also use some of the traditional like hand rattles and leg rattles, ones that are made out of bark, ones that are made out of deer toes. So when we're using them, they all have different tones. They all have different. They're all different medias. So when we're making, say we're making, a salmon rattle. A salmon rattle comes from taking a piece of hickory, trimming it down so you bend it in a circle, but then you're covering it with the skin from a salmon, and then you use. And it's also a teaching, but it's also gives a difference in the sound, where it almost sounds like a faster rain stick. So in a lot of those, just the medicine that comes from the teachings and stuff, and you'll see that when we're doing like groups of stuff with people at some of them different agencies, and how who grabs what after they listen to the sound, and a lot of that, and that speaks to the medicine that's with them or what they need.
A small bit of a follow-up on that last question. Could you talk a bit about how sort of appropriation comes into this, of like appropriation of culture, or how can one sort of gain the appropriate type of knowledge they need to sort of make use of sort of music and traditional healing practices that's not appropriative?
As in how they would how they could receive some of the teachings, or
learn.
We have a lot of different different teaching sites and stuff now, being with the digital world. And so like we have with through some of our national groups, that we have people that from other reserves and other groups around North America, even around the country in different parts of the world, that all have, students or family members that have some of these disabilities. And one of the things that we do is we have online areas, and we do traditional teachings and stuff on how to gain some of that access. A lot of times when I'm working with people and helping them, it's usually a one-on-one, to kind of understand the person, to see what they need, but what is the best way for them to to kind of excel through some of the teachings. And so even like the stories and stuff, it's like when people listen to my CD and stuff that I have out, and listen to how we have songs and then we have stories that go with them.
A question for sort of the contemporary moment. What are some of the common Native medical practices that we as students can practice in college to help with stress and anxiety?
A lot of it would be like smudging, and doing some of the using the traditional herbs. A lot of times, it's like when we take the students out west, teaching them how to work with some of the herbs and stuff that we gather, and how to be able to like burn sage or have lavender. And a lot of times it's mixing them, and there's a lot of good herbology books out there that teach you how to make your own, some people call them sachets or bundles or watais, and how you can mix different herbs in those, to hang them, in a window, hang them from your rear mirror, or hang them where the, your venting system is, because that will help increase the, the natural abilities of the herbs and stuff to permeate your system, because the air works through them.
What do you think are some of the best ways to get natural medicines into the mainstream culture?
Get rid of all the credit cards. When we go out, it's like me and Linda and Luke were just talking about this. One of the things that we've been doing is we've been teaching other communities and stuff how to gather medicine, for the people. How to get them teas, how to get them different roots and stuff that they need, and then but also to show them, like I said, like we do when we're doing the herb walks and stuff, taking them out and showing them how to identify them. It's like, that's one of the things that we were talking back and forth, is like this herb book I've been working on for 5 years now, and I'm slowly getting things farther. It took Linda longer, but it's still, working on a lot of those on things on how to bring a lot of that medicine and stuff that you find. We rocked around the campus here a couple of years ago at UD and showed, we probably found, 30 different plants and stuff that were usable and stuff that were there.
This question may not be super pertinent to the movie, and that's the person who wrote this assessment, not mine. But I've been considering applying to work for the Indian Health Service and was curious of your opinion on the Indian Health Service.
To me, we need more people there. The problem with Indian Health Services, it's run by a military general. When I'm in Pennsylvania, I have to drive 8 hours to University of Rochester to get any medical attention. The problem with Indian Health Services is 8 years ago, I broke my jaw reading a book. And it took a year and a half for them to finally get around to doing surgery on it to repair it. And then 2 days later, the graft that they put in, the wiring stuff came out. Then they said, well, it's going to be another 90 days before we can do anything about it. And that's one of the problems. Unfortunately, Indian Health Services in the state of New York and in these other places, they don't look as they look at numbers. They don't look at indigenous people as being holistic people. One of the problems is in the state of New York, the largest amount of homeless veterans are Native American veterans because they can't get VA services because we have Indian health care, and Indian health care won't cover anything. So that's one of the things that you have. But the problem is if you watch some of these congressional meetings and stuff, I mean, you've got people there that have no medical background that are running this. So that's but the problem is somebody that is willing to get into that field and work with them. That's the only way that it is going to change is from people working from the inside out to change it, because it's sure not going to be the government.
Do natural medicines and traditional healing occur on a daily basis for you? And do you use these methods on a regular basis or only for aiding larger scale medical issues such as autism?
No, we use it every day. And I use different medicines and stuff in the morning and at night. And a lot of times when we're doing, like just when we get up greeting the sun, burning tobacco and stuff for them, or lighting herbs and stuff, for different things. I have asthma and I have one lung and one kidney. So I burn bear root every morning and a couple times during the day. And I don't have to go out and buy albuterol and puffers and stuff, because I can just go out and dig it up and dry it, and I've got it with me. And it didn't cost me anything except for playing in the dirt.
Do you think holistic medicine is looked down upon by today's doctors? And how can we change that view?
Yeah, a lot of it is. And one of the problems is, it's like with Adrian's doctor, one of the things, people that's watched the whole part of the movie and stuff, you've seen how he had differences when they first started, and he was apprehensive, but seen towards the end of the movie on how the changes that did make for him. And one of the things is in mainstream, you have to understand that medications are profitable. When people are looking for healings and looking for medicines and stuff, the stuff that we're using, to prevent COVID-19 on the reserves is all stuff that we go out and we gather, but we don't get into a lot of the traditional uses unless people come to us. But one of the things that we tell them, we ask them not to give any of the information and stuff out to mainstream. It's like chaga. We gather a lot of chaga. And the other day I was in a health food store and I seen you could buy 10 little tea bags of chaga for $55.
What is your favorite part of working with natural medicines and special needs?
The favorite part is, I guess a lot of it is especially with special needs people, of them tasting things, something that we've taken from the ground, or something that roots that we dried and we're burning. Their taste, their smell, their visual parts of it. One of the biggest things is when they find things that work for them, that is the benefit, to their system, and they remember that.
Oops. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing and disappeared for a second. If we were looking for more information on indigenous medicine, what are some sources we could look into?
There are a number of places. Actually, Cornell, Penn State, Ohio State has actually started into doing more of working, trying to help promote and protect natural medicines, and it's like, like aspen trees. A lot of times you see like people, they're trying to get rid of the beech trees, and some of them trying to using Roundup to poison them and stuff, because timber buyers, they want the cherry trees. Well, to us, we call it Columbus wood. I go out Columbus Day. First thing I do is I go out and cut down some cherry trees just for some firewood. But a lot of it is there's more and more universities that have become very diverse into learning and teaching about more of the holistic medicines and stuff that you can find. I've been able to go to a number of these universities and talk and do woods walks and stuff, and we have we do a program and stuff in August for we have an indigenous farming conference, and that's all we do is we teach how to hand propagate, how to hand culture your own food, and then that follows into a lot of different realms. And then we tell people, well, but we teach that food is medicine. So what we put into our system is either going to pollute your system or help your system.
How do you spell WETA?
WE-WTHA.
Spell it one more time, just in case they weren't paying attention.
WE with the space, WTHA.
Thank you. It sounds like Adrian learned a lot from you. What did you learn from him and about peoples with disabilities in general?
What did I learn from Adrian? Oh, I learned how to have a little more sense of humor dealing with the government and people of authority. Imagine that. But and a lot of it was, he would say, oh, well, that's supposed to be our governor. You're really not supposed to make fun of him. I said, well, I'm not making fun of him. I'm just making a statement that may sound like we're making fun, but it's a true statement. And but that's one of the things with people with Asperger's and anything like that is sometimes a literal translation of a word is different because they literally look at it like that.
Do you think native or holistic practices that can help autistic people are best used in tandem with more contemporary Western medicines, or alone with only other native holistic methods?
That is a case-to-case situation. And one of the things is that there are some Western medicines that work very well, that aren't abrasive to the system, that with holistic medicine or indigenous medicine actually makes them more absorbent, makes them increases the viability on how it is perceived by the patient.
What is Adrian up to now?
Adrian is actually producing it's called a movie called Clowns in the Woods, and you can see it on Facebook. And if you look up Adrian, you can follow him. And but he has been accepted into a few of the like Sundance and some of those other places for a lot of his movies. And he's won a lot of awards. And he did another movie that's called Disability Hollywood. And that's another one and so that's been viewed in a lot of different places. And in this new movie that he's doing with the Clowns in the Woods, two of the main actors are one has Downs, the other has that's autistic, and it's showing that they are viable, and even in mainstream movies that they're still really there is a place for them.
Next question, I've heard that different types of teas are very good for reducing stress and becoming calm. Do you have any favorite teas? And are they store-bought or did you make them?
I make all my own teas. I don't rarely, because I have supplied herbs to a lot of the botanical companies, and then one of the things when we're gathering and stuff for them is they'll process and send stuff back to us, and I've had a lot of times taken and send them 100% herbs and then get stems and other pieces back from when, and it's like, well, it's not what I sent you. So I find that for my system and stuff that it is easier to collect my own and then use my own. It's like red clovers. I go out and collect red clovers from different farmers that I know that they don't use any chemicals and stuff on their farms and that.
For those who aren't able, for whatever reason, to gather their own, is store-bought stuff worth it?
Go to an herbalist. Go to a health food store that actually has people there that understand the plants and stuff. So yes, it is, and there are a lot of viable places to buy good herbs. And you find more and more, especially in Ohio, that there's a lot of these. I know when I was in Yellow Springs last year, I'd met with about 20 different people that had small herb shops and stuff, and they were interested in in showing me what they were doing. One of the other things too is there's a lot of forest harvesting and stuff going on in Ohio, where a lot of the holistic growers and stuff are actually growing in natural spaces, and so that helps in the ability to find good quality herbs. But most of the places, people talk about like GNC and a lot of those, and I kind of stay away from them because I'm not a proponent of big business. But if you look on Facebook and some of the places that there's a lot of pages on there that are just holistic practitioners that are raising and supplying communities and stuff, and you'll find it's a lot cheaper to buy from them than it is.
What are the odds that you will come to do a woods walk at UD in the future?
Oh, UD is like my second home, so probably pretty good chance.
I figured as much. It's basically, as soon as we can start visiting again, hopefully that can happen. This might be a very niche question, but I was born without a sense of smell. Would lacking that sense make some native medicinal practices more or less effective?
No, actually, it makes it more effective. And in that, a lot of people can actually feel through their skin, especially along their cheeks and through their lips and through their hands. I tell people when we're doing woods walks and stuff, to actually take the herbs and run them between their fingers, and they'll be able to absorb that through. And a lot of times, it's like you get out there and it's like people that are gathering hops. When you gather hops, they tell you just to pluck them, not to squeeze them, because you squeeze them, next thing you know, you get that oyster taste in your mouth, and that's coming right through your hands.
Let's see. Sorry, trying to read and pay attention at the same time. It's a little bit of a challenge. How do you teach people to be nutritionally conscious, and has that helped them make changes in their lives?
One of the things that I found was to stay away from processed meats. We did a study with 100 natives that were all diabetics, and we basically got rid of their McDonald's and Burger King and started feeding them, natural deer meat, moose, venisons, farm raised, free range chicken, and even a lot of the free range beef and stuff. It's stuff that's not getting fed any grain. A lot of times people say, well, I've got, grass fed beef, and next thing but they'll feed them grain, put a weight on them at the very end. Well, a lot of that, finding those traditional medicines, actually works through a lot of that meat and stuff that you eat. So gathering, catching your own fish, gathering your own mushrooms, gathering your own, your different plants and stuff. I mean, some of the best, palatable herbs and stuff that you can find for salad grows right in your yard. Everybody wants to spray and kill the dandelions and plantain and stuff. Heck, well, pick it up. So you like, baby spinach and plantain, and that stuff is going to give you a lot more, medicine through your food, and you won't be as hungry.
I know we have several music therapy students and probably a couple of professors here. What sort of suggestions would you give them to sort of increase their knowledge about traditional sort of music practices and how it might sort of connect with the work that they're trying to do?
A lot of music therapies and a lot of our traditional teachings that we found was the lower, the slower music and quieter, the more more that is absorbed. So when they're using, like you listen to like some of the Tibetan music and stuff like that, and the long ohms and stuff, that's absorbed faster into the system than it is, with a higher pitched, when they talk about that, and they talk about, the waves and stuff that come off of those, and those wavelengths, that the higher they are, the sharper they are, and the lower they are, the wider they are. So that when the wider they are, the more they absorb to the surface. So it's more that they're going to take into their system, and they'll absorb music through their entire body, not just through their ears. So a lot of times, if you see some of the different things that they're doing now, using vibration boards and stuff for people to stand on.
Are there any herbs you would recommend that are commonly used that we grow ourselves at home?
Well, a lot of it depends on what you're looking for. There are a lot of things that you can grow that once you've enacted on them, from seeds, and change the molecular buildup of where they come from. Like, say, if they come from a place that has a high loam, like in the woods, and you try to grow it in like Miracle Grow potting soil, it's going to have a different flavor and a different consistency and stuff to it. And a lot of times, giving all those extra nutrients it makes it grow faster, but you're taking a lot of the medicine or the structural ability from it.
And a bit of a follow-up, is there a specific way one would go about figuring out what works best for them, holistic medicine wise?
Yes, there's a lot of ways to do that, and depending on where you're working from and how you're, like, I know some chiropractic will actually hold your magnet at the top of somebody's head, and then use different herbs of different minerals at the bottoms of their feet, rubbing it on their feet to see what changes, the stature of their feet. There's other ways to, to figure that out. A lot of it is like people go to wine tasting. Well, what wine tastes the better to you, or what more beer, or if they're going to places and they're smelling, perfumes. A lot of it is, one, I tell people, I said, whatever you find that is palatable to your system, I said, you're going to have a better chance of, using it in staying with it than you are if you find something that doesn't work for your system. If you got, you're gathering a lot of, dandelions and stuff, and then you're finding that, the leaves are too strong, and then you just dry the roots and stuff, and you can dry the roots and stuff, and they're less diuretic as what the leaves would be.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Leon, for taking the time to answer all of these questions. I can speak for myself. I've enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm sure that both Dr. Segi and Dr. Toll did as well. I'd like to share with all the students my screen. If you are here and want to get AV8 credit, please type in this link into your computer and open up the Google Doc that will have you answer a couple quick questions and collect your name and email. And we'll have all the information we need from you to take care of that. Unless any of the other co-hosts or Lean would like to say anything else, that's what we have for you today. Thank you for your participation, and I do hope to see you at one of our subsequent